Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli. Try again. Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video. And yes, of course, continuing on reviewing the Marvel films. And now, finally, we've come up to the X-Men film that everybody was looking forward to, and yeah, including myself. And when this finally came out, it was just so fantastic. And it's not just me reviewing this. I've, of course, got with me my good friend, Anchorman.
Hello there.
Yes, that's right. Both me and him are reviewing X-Men Days of Future Past. Oh, man, what a great X-Men film this turned out to be. And of course, with Bryan Singer, who returned to direct this film, and rightfully so. Yeah, it's amazing how this turned out, because pretty much everybody is in this. The older versions of the X-Men characters and the younger cast. Yeah, just you name it. So I'll read so the story. Convinced that mutants pose a threat to humanity, Dr. Boulevard Trask develops a Sentinel's enormous robotic weapons that can detect a mutant gene and zero in on that person. In the 21st century, the Sentinels have evolved into highly efficient killing machines, with mutants now facing extinction. Wolverine volunteers to go back in time and rally the X-Men of the past to help change a pivotal moment in history, and thereby save their future. So it's really amazing, because as it was teased in the Wolverine, because when the end credit scene, Eric and Charles meet with Logan at an airport and, telling him that there are dark forces and, something bad is happening. That was a good tease for what would come next year, for the next X-Men film. Everybody reuniting and, seeing, the actors who play the younger versions of the X-Men characters all come together in this one X-Men film. And of course, it makes sense. And, Days Future Past. Okay, and we'll come to you, Anchorman. What are the first things you have to say about Days of Future Past?
I like how it shows the X-Men in a dystopian future. And by the way, I think this takes place in 2023 if you really think about it, since the past takes place in the 70s. I calculated it, and it's 2023, so that's saying something.
Yeah, definitely.
And I just love these original actors just showing up. It's like a reunion.
Definitely. Definitely. And I remember because, I forget how it goes, because even, my mom mentioned this to me, that, Bryan Singer was surprised to hear that Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen, they reprised their roles as Charles Xavier and Magneto. He was surprised to hear that, they wanted to come back for this, and, and why wouldn't they? And they seem to have really enjoyed playing their characters. So, yeah, and of course, again, it makes sense, because, having the characters from the past and future. So, yeah, because as you said, Anchorman, because the future and what was it, a dystopian society or something?
Yeah, a bad future, if the world ended.
Exactly, yeah, apocalyptic world, basically. Yeah, because mutants and even humans that were on the side of mutants getting arrested and tortured and so on.
Unfair laws.
What's that now?
It's unfair laws, they're forcing their power against their freedom.
Yeah, exactly. And a bunch of, we see a couple of new mutants, there's Bishop and Blink and Warpath, if I'm saying that right, and I totally forgot about the opening to that film, because with them and three other familiar mutants, Iceman / Bobby, once again played by Shawn Ashmore, Colossus, once again, played by Daniel Cudmore, if I'm saying that right, and also there was also
Katie Pride.
What's that now?
Katie Pride.
Yeah, Katie Pride. There she is. Yeah, once again played by Ellen Page. Now Elliot Page.
Yes.
Yeah. So I almost forgot about that opening, and they fix up, they restore something, and once that's done, everything like disappears, like them and so on. And that's when we get the introduction, of course, of Charles Xavier, Magneto, Wolverine, once again played by Hugh Jackman, and Storm, once again played by Halle Berry. They meet up with the mutants that are hiding. I think is it at China? Do you remember?
Yeah, they go to China, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, they hide out.
It's like the only safe place.
Yeah, so they hide out there for now. Like that's the best hiding place they have for now until they find them. Basically, because with the help of Kitty Pryde, because at first Charles wants to travel back in time to 1973 to stop Raven, aka Mystique. And Mystique, once again played by Jennifer Lawrence, because she's kind of responsible for what happens, in the future, because she killed Dr. Boulevard Trask, played by Peter Dinklage. And Peter Dinklage, fun fact, years later would be in the MCU. So, yeah.
He's in Avengers Infinity War.
Correct, yeah. And so, yeah, and according to Xavier, killing the Doctor was Raven's first kill, and she was captured and tortured, and they discovered in her DNA, because, she can change, and that's when they create, what are those called again?
Sentinels?
Sentinels, yeah. If I've mispronounced it, I'm sorry. But, yeah. And those machines, they are unstoppable. The mutants can't stop them. They're defenseless. And
they can absorb powers too.
Say that again?
They absorb powers.
That's
steal it and then they can kill.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Rather it be say what Iceman has, or any character who can set themselves on flame or have laser eyes, you name it. And that's when, again, Xavier wants to travel back in time to stop Raven, but according to Kitty Pryde, she can't really send Xavier back because his brain and his mind just too powerful for her to handle. And how can Xavier survive that and make it? Well, Wolverine, he volunteers to do that, and thus being sent back in time, and
do you want to know something?
Go ahead.
I don't know if you read the comic book version.
No.
But in the comic, it's actually Katie Pryde who actually goes back in time.
Oh, okay. I did not know that.
Katie Pryde's probably one of my favorite X-Men, by the way. I just felt like saying that.
Okay, no problem. So yeah. But in the movie version, yeah, Wolverine goes back in time.
It's because he's cool, too cool.
Yeah, and he's one of the main X-Men characters in the X-Men movies. So
yes.
But yeah, so with him going back in time, and he's the thing is, at one point with Wolverine, which I'll get to. You know what? I'll get to. He's not the Wolverine. Well, basically, he's not the Wolverine in 1973. He's the Wolverine from the future that, you get the point. And yes. That's when, after dealing with a couple of, guys with guns, and he accidentally put holes in a waterbed, because...
Is it basically his mind is in his 2023 mind is trapped in his body from the 70s.
There you go. That's what I was looking for. So that's what happens.
Yes.
And so Logan / Wolverine, he goes to find younger Charles, and along with Charles, there's Hank McCoy, aka Beast. And once again, young Charles Xavier being played by James McAvoy and Beast played by Nicholas Hoult. And go ahead.
I would just like to say I like James McAvoy more than Patrick Stewart. I don't know why, I always felt more with James McAvoy. Like, I always loved him in First Class, and to see him again in this movie is, like, very cool. Like, they go in depth with him just a little bit more.
Well,
if you know what I'm saying.
I understand, yeah. And even, like, say, older Charles Xavier, basically, like, gave Logan a heads up on what to expect with his younger self. Yeah, of course. And, yeah, young Charles not that much great, and, you know, so much has happened to young Charles, basically. Even say, like... Yeah, he got shot, but he lost so much more, not just his legs. He lost Raven and the students, and when the Vietnam War began, and the fact that his frenemy, Eric, young Eric, he did something that got him in a very, like, top secret, you know, like, underground prison cell.
He killed JFK.
Yeah, and I almost forgot about that too, that he killed JFK. Like, wow. What a twist. But,
it feels weird that they're using a real-life death in this movie.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, like in the X-Men films, they sometimes have used real presidents. Like in this case, we get President Nixon in Days of Future Past, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, but there were a couple of presidents in the X-Men films that, you know, weren't actual presidents, but, you know, anyways, Charles, we do see Charles walking, and that's because, like, he took some serum, basically.
It helps him.
Yes, it helps him walk, but also he can't, like, use his powers because of that.
Yeah.
And, like, Logan just trying to convince Charles, and he does, kind of, but still, it still takes some time, and not to mention, you know, Charles does recognize Logan because, you know, when him and Eric, like, tried to recruit him, I
love that scene.
Yeah, in X-Men First Class, and then, you know, Charles telling him, I'm going to tell you the exact same thing you told me. F off. Again, just...
you want to know something?
Just very quickly, like, again, like, I've said this before, one use of an F-bomb in a PG-13 film. So, all right, you go ahead now.
I think they kind of retcon something, because in X-Men Origins Wolverine, you know how we see Charles at the end? He's walking perfectly fine, and I'm pretty sure that movie takes place in the 70s, and in this movie, he doesn't have his powers. So it's kind of a retcon, but I don't know.
Okay.
If you know.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand, but okay. And so, because even, like, say with Raven, with what goes on with Raven, she at one point saves a bunch of mutants, and even, like, that's when she discovers what Dr. Bolivar is doing, and with mutants, and, like, you know, she is just heartbroken by this, and she's just going to do whatever it takes to stop this. But she's missing the point on this. Like, she doesn't really understand this. Like, that not all, like, about, like, what's going on with the mutants in 1973. Even, like, say, you know, the sequence where Logan, Hank, and Charles recruiting Eric, and with the help, and we get the debut of Quicksilver, and Quicksilver in the X-Men franchise being played by Evan Peters.
I love Quicksilver, this version. He's so much better than his MCU counterparts.
Yeah, and the fact that we didn't get that much of the MCU's Quicksilver.
Because he died.
Yeah, exactly. And the fact that Evan Peters made an appearance in WandaVision.
Yeah, he did. That was a fun cameo.
That was, definitely. But anyways, so yeah, recruiting Quicksilver, and and like, say, Hank hijacks, you know, like, the security cameras, and, like, it's now playing Charlie Chaplin films, and even like one of the like moderators does actually laugh at what's playing on the screens. And when they break out Eric, well, in the kitchen, and when the fire alarms were set off, all the security guards, I should say, with their guns, and with Quicksilver, that pretty good sequence where the song plays, "If I could save time," in the bottle, and like him
I
like
love that song.
yeah, and it fits well in this scene. Him like changing the positions of the bullets, and like
And he grabs the security guard's hand and makes it look like he's punching himself.
yeah, that's what I was about to mention. And
They did a lot of work in that scene.
yeah, they sure did. And I think, and the fact that movie got nominated for an Oscar, so, and I think he gave I think he gave one security guard a wedgie. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, he puts on one of the guard's hats for no reason.
Just like to be cool, I guess. It looks good on him. And so, yeah, that happened. And I almost forgot to mention, Logan in 1973, he doesn't have the steel claws, he has the bone claws.
Bone claws. I don't get how those work.
Well, I mean, that's how he first got the claws,
Doesn't he lose his claws in the Wolverine?
He does, yeah. I honestly can't, like we see him with the bone claws like in the end of the Wolverine, but for some reason in this film and in the future he has the steel claws again. I don't know, like
there has have metal claws.
There has to be some like explanation as to how he got the steel claws again.
I don't think they'll answer it since the franchise is over.
Yeah, or if there was
we'll accept it.
If there was an article about this, but okay, as I was saying, and with Eric, like, because a heated moment between Eric and Charles, and when they're flying on the plane, like, yeah, Quicksilver did his duty, and thus Hank, Eric, Charles, and Logan, they go off and to stop Raven, and as I said, a heated moment between Eric and Charles, when Eric had left, and when Charles basically like did nothing, and as Eric was saying, "Where were you, Charles, when they needed you?" Blah blah blah. And thus when they go and they find Raven, like, well, they do manage to stop her from at first trying to kill Dr. Bolivar Trask, and even like, say, we get the almost forgot to mention, like, we get the appearance of a young William Stryker, and William Stryker
looks like John
Cena. Okay, but yeah, young William Stryker being played by Josh Hellman, and
there's a lot of Stryker actors.
Yeah, him and what's-him-face from X-Men Origins Wolverine, and Brian Cox, which, yeah, we do get an appearance of Brian Cox, but it's only like archive footage, so would have been cool. It would have been cool if Brian Cox actually did come back, like, I don't know, but it's just how they did it, so and even at one point, Logan, something happens with him, his mind from the future just is gone. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes. Isn't he when he starts getting negative thoughts, he turns on the claw and he accidentally hits Kitty and she gets really scratched.
Oh yeah.
If someone got hit by that in real life, it really hurt.
Yeah, it definitely would. But of course, his mind is restored, and it is Logan from the future again, so. And yeah, Eric trying to stop Raven because, yeah, he knows, and he is stopping Raven, and of course Raven does get away, and even Hank trying to stop Eric, and at that moment they are exposed by the crowd and people getting this on film cameras, the cameras that how they were in the 1970s. Yeah, and the attempt to stop Raven, they did stop her from trying to kill the Doctor at first, but she got away, and so on. And even Eric, like, he at one point ditched Hank, Eric, and Logan, and that's when at one point, they use Cerebro. And
Cerebro.
yeah, do you want to explain that sequence of them using Cerebro?
So, like, Cerebro is the thing that can contact mutants.
Yeah.
Well, it can sense mutants. Only Charles can really use it, or Jean Grey.
Yeah.
And, like, First Class, I'm pretty sure we actually see the people, but in this, it's kind of more like the older movies of how it worked, Cerebro worked.
Yeah.
So it's a cool device, I guess.
Mm-hmm. But it doesn't, like, yeah, and Charles hadn't used Cerebro in quite a while, and all, the amount of dust that built on the helmet, and...
It works.
Yeah, and, like, when using it and, like, reaching out and finding all the other mutants, like, basically just a lot of pain, and Charles can't take it, and the board, like, basically kind of sparks, and, that's when at one point, Logan allows Charles to see his mind, and, his, like, what Logan has seen in the past and in the future, and we, of course, get, archive footage of, movies like, say, The Wolverine and X-Men Last Stand, and that's when at one point, young Charles travels into the future where Logan is, and that's when we get young Charles and older Charles interacting with each other. And when...
That's cool.
I know! It was great. Like, a great moment. And older Charles, Patrick Stewart, of course, convincing his younger self. And giving some wise words to his younger self, so...
If you traveled through time and met your older self, do you think he'd give you advice or something?
I'd say, like, who wouldn't? Like,
I think I would.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's when, yeah, young Charles knows what to do, and, like, he understands, and he is going to do whatever it takes to stop Raven and save the future for all of the mutants. And as for Eric, well, because, like, do you want to explain what Eric does next? You can take the spot.
I think he steals his helmet and puts on his Magneto suit. It actually looks good. At the end of First Class, it didn't really look good. But then he finally gets full-on suit. And then he goes to some random baseball stadium, and he literally lifts the entire stadium.
Yeah, that was really cool. Yeah, that was an insane moment for Magneto, don't you think?
Oh, yes.
And he basically, like, puts it, like, around the White House, literally.
I've been to the White House.
Oh, cool. And wasn't it fun for you?
I didn't get to go into the place, but it's because it's security, and it was when I went on a DC trip, but we got to get a picture by it, my classmates, but I mean, you get the point.
Oh, so you didn't, like, take a White House tour, as they would sometimes do?
No.
Okay.
We just got to look at the place.
Yeah, but, like, seeing the White House outside is still amazing,
Things are different back in the day.
Yeah, that's true. But, yeah, and with Eric, because, we all know, because Eric's, like, hatred towards humanity, and thinking that, all mutants are hated and so on, and, he is doing it his way, I guess you could say, and stopping Raven his way, and, Nixon, like, do you, like, I gotta say, like, President Nixon be played by Mark Camacho, I don't know if I'm saying his last name right, but he pulled off a pretty good likeness to Nixon. And also, we got the late Michael Lerner. He was a senator in this film.
Is he the one that passed away recently?
Yes, that's right.
Rest in peace.
May he rest in peace. And so, Logan, Charles, and Hank, they make their way to Washington, D.C., and at the White House because of this ceremony that's going on, and with these, robots that were built. I guess you could say, like, they were just a peek at those Sentinels, like, in the future, I guess you could say. Probably, I guess, but, like, obviously, Dr. Boulevard Trask built them, and, basically, Eric somehow gets control of those robots, and they obey him, and just he has the president and everybody at the White House, like trapped and so on. And he even like while this is going on, what's happening in the future? Well, the Sentinels, like, they show up, they find their hiding place, and each of the mutants are killed. I remember when me and my mom, we saw this in theaters, we were both shocked when we saw Storm get killed.
Yes.
Yeah, and even at one point,
It's sad.
it is sad. And, well, all the other mutants from Colossus and also Bishop and Blink, just all the mutants that are trying to stop
Doesn't
them.
Iceman get his head crushed?
Who got Iceman?
Yeah, he gets his head squashed.
Yeah,
or
but
something.
I think that was in the beginning of the film. I can't remember. Yeah. But yeah, with him getting killed again, so being burned, vaporized basically, and even like say at one point Eric, he got a piece of like metal right into his ribs basically, and I mean he doesn't get killed, but he's just very wounded, and yeah, with that going on and what's going on in 1973 with what younger Magneto is doing, and Logan, Hank, and Charles trying to stop Eric, and even at one point, Eric defeats Logan by putting those like barbed wires like all around his body. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Gosh.
A long time ago, when my friend saw this movie, he told me Wolverine died, but I don't think he did.
No, he didn't. Because, okay. Try again.
It was so cool.
Wait, stop. I'm gonna edit this, okay.
Okay. Take your time.
Because afterwards, like Eric, he threw Logan all the way out into the ocean. So yeah, like Logan didn't die, he was just left there in the ocean, while it like only Hank and Charles, like they were the only ones, and Raven was still going to kill the Doctor, but finally, because the many times that they tried to convince Raven, Charles finally convinces her, because Raven just saying we are the enemy, and oh yeah, because she disguised herself as Nixon confronting Magneto, and she pulled the gun, and it went through his neck. Like, he's lucky.
I don't know how he survived that.
Yeah, he's lucky he survived that. He's lucky he didn't get
survived in real life.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, as I said, Charles confronting Raven finally, and like that not all the mutants are the enemy, not yet. If Mystique does kill the Doctor, then yeah. And of course the Sentinels, they are this close to about to kill Charles Xavier and all the other surviving mutants in that room. And even when, say, Eric, he finally came to terms with Charles Xavier, like all those years wasted fighting, like that was a good moment right there for Eric. He's finally convinced. And
I wonder why they didn't look for Wolverine.
Actually, I don't know, but before that, Raven does finally. She doesn't kill the Doctor. She drops the gun, and once she does that, the future is changed. Everything is normal, like everything.
Everyone's resurrected.
Exactly. Nobody has died. And
Cyclops is brought back to life.
Yeah, well, every character that had died in the previous X-Men films, yeah, they're brought back. And Eric and Mystique, they go their own ways, and everything's good for Charles and Hank. And as for Logan, well, Logan, he finds his way back into the future. Everything is much better, everybody alive, and the X-Mansion with all the students. And we get a couple of quick appearances of Rogue, once again played by Anna Paquin. the older Beast played by Kelsey Grammer, and yeah, just for that one quick appearance and Kelsey Grammer in that makeup. In fact, I remember reading this that Kelsey Grammer called up Bryan Singer, about appearing in the film, and you know what? I think yeah, his
He didn't get credit.
Yeah, that I remember that he didn't get credit, but everybody would still know it's Kelsey Grammer as Beast. So yeah,
he's pretty solid as Beast.
Yeah, and I think that cameo was definitely worth it. And of course, Storm, Colossus, and Bobby, they're all okay, and we get the appearances of Jean Grey, played by Famke Janssen, if I'm saying her last name right still, and Cyclops / Scott, once again played by James Marsden. Yeah. And of course, Charles being there in a new, floating chair. The floating chair that he was in throughout the film, in the apocalyptic future, I think it was a bit different, but, and this one that he's in, different from what I can tell. What's that now?
Do you think age matters in the X-Men movies, since these characters don't really age?
I guess not. And so and Charles does realize, as Logan explains about what happened in 1973, and Charles saying welcome back, and Charles saying to Logan, there's a lot we have to catch up on and so on. And the last thing that Logan remembers, well, because he was in the ocean and he was recovered, and of course, he's still alive, and Mystique is disguised as Stryker, and she was saving Logan's neck. That was pretty good, and that's how the movie ends. And we of course get an end credits scene where a mutant is basically building the pyramids. This is obviously
I think it's Apocalypse.
Yes, this was obviously a setup for the next X-Men film. So yeah. But yes, I gotta say, X-Men Days of Future Past was one heck of an X-Men film. You have anything else to say?
I think I really like it, and I think I would like to watch it more.
Yeah.
As you go on, and I really love Hugh Jackman, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick Stewart, James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender, they're all great. And
absolutely,
this is definitely a sort of Avengers Endgame.
Yeah, exactly. You're absolutely right there. And also I'd like to quickly point out that there was Hank at one point had different networks on, and one of them being CBS, and on CBS was Star Trek the original series. That's a nice nod, and the fact that Patrick Stewart, in the Star Trek franchise as Captain Jean-Luc Picard. So yeah. But anyways, do you have any last words to say on X-Men Days of Future Past, and how you rate it and so on?
I'd give it a 9 out of 10.
Oh, well, for me, I'm definitely giving this a 10 out of 10, because this is
I'll give it a 10, why not?
Yeah, and I also would like to point out, I don't know, I feel like Days of Future Past, kind of made things better for X-Men Last Stand. What do you say on that?
I think Last Stand's underappreciated. I don't love it. I don't hate it. I feel neutral about it. It's not that bad, but I think it does fix things.
Yeah.
I don't know if they made this movie just to fix what people were complaining about in Last Stand.
Exactly. You're absolutely right.
Why do people hate Last Stand? It's because they killed off a lot of characters, and some things that didn't work in Last Stand, and so on. Yeah.
But yeah, again, as you said and as I said, Days of Future Past seemed to fix things for Last Stand. So yeah. So again, Anchorman, do you rate it 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10?
I'll give it a 10.
Oh, yeah, and me too. I'm definitely giving this a 10 out of 10. Any last words on Days of Future Past?
Check it out. It's really good.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, what did you guys think of Days of Future Past, and what did you think of our review? Leave comments and give this review a like, as always. And go ahead and say goodbye.
Goodbye.
He says that. For me, we hope you've enjoyed our review of X-Men Days of Future Past. More reviews coming your way. They're gonna be awesome. Keep looking forward, and we'll see you guys in the next video/review. And Anchorman will be back reviewing another Marvel film with me. Stay tuned for that. But stay tuned later this week when me and my dad review the next MCU film where all the Avengers come together, all of them, and take on Thanos. Take care, peace out, and X-Men unite!